Welcome back to Count Me In, IMA's podcast about all things affecting the accounting and finance world. This is your host, Mitch Rochong, and I'm here to preview episode 144 of our series. Today's featured guest speaker is Sarah Hoxie. Sarah is the Chief Accounting Officer at LSC Communications. In this role, she is responsible for all aspects of accounting and has overseen various projects impacting the organization. Throughout this episode, Sarah talks about her experience with business transformation projects and focuses on the people involved. Transformations can greatly affect culture, and Sarah explains how to best manage that. So keep listening as we head over to the conversation now.
Sarah, thanks so much for coming on the podcast today. And our focus today is going to be around business transformation. And so just to kind of start off, what is your take on business transformation?
So in my opinion, business transformation isn't a straight line journey. It's not a matter of starting at, A and working your way to C and then you're done. It's really about, looking at the opportunities that are out there in the environment and adapting to those, whether it's, social, economic, environmental, they're all things that, need to be considered. And as you're on that journey, incorporating them as they change. From my experience, it's a lot of business transformation is about making the business or making your area of the company continue to remain, relevant. And I think the scope can be, as narrow or as broad as needed. I think you see a lot of companies that do business transformation well, look at all levels of a business, and they never stop looking for changes that are out there.
So when we look at business transformation, what approach do you take when you're leading a transformation?
I think the first thing that I really focus on is tone at the top. I think to get everyone in a part of the business or even the whole company engaged in business transformation, they need to view it as a priority from the leaders of the business. And I think it should, my approach has been to involve all levels of the organization, right? From, people that have just joined the company or your interns, right through people that are, more senior individuals, and getting their input. I think they have got to be helping drive some of the change, help identify what the issues are or what the problems are, and then work together to find solutions for them. I think when you get all levels of the business working behind this kind of transformation, it really does drive better solutions. You've got people that are doing some of the things on a day-to-day basis that can see how they can resolve the issues, or they know what the issue is and maybe don't know how to resolve it. But if you get everyone involved, then all those ideas are coming together, and everyone's working towards them. I think another key piece of it is really accountability. Once you have that tone at the top set, and people are right behind that, then you can start to encourage everyone to be accountable for the areas they're getting involved in. From an accountability perspective, tracking some of the progress on the areas of transformation is really helpful as well, because if you're 3 months into this kind of process and you can precisely communicate to everyone the progress that has been made, and you're doing that through being able to track the progress, it starts to build the momentum for everyone to, really get behind the project. But, I've seen, in the organizations I've been with, the tracking can take over. You really want something that's simple, that's not taking time away from the actual transformation activity. It kind of going back to, what I was saying about getting all levels involved. I think if you're going to get true business transformation, you really need to give people a lot of free rein to come up with those ideas. Don't set kind of restraints on projects or ideas that can be investigated. And I think that's where I've had the most success, when you've really given people a a free range, maybe hold a brainstorming session to identify all, potential suggestions of how we can do transformation out there, and then start to investigate them rather than, giving very tight restrictions on what can be, proposed. Something else that I've seen work well is, not losing track of ideas and suggestions that don't necessarily make sense today, but may make sense in the future. Keeping an eye on those is always helpful because, the world is continually changing, and that idea or suggestion might be great in, 2 or 3 years' time.
It almost sounds like you're referring to like a cultural shift within an organization, where, you're changing the tone at the top and you're listening to ideas, even writing them down and like keeping them for 2 to 3 years, maybe because that idea may be different later. How would you execute like a cultural shift in an organization to make sure that the transformation is successful?
When you think about making it stick, it has to be something that continually comes up in everyone's day-to-day activities. It's not something that just people focus on for a month and then it's never mentioned again. It's, really keeping it in the forefront of everyone's mind. Even if it's small day-to-day kind of activities, really, any chance of, small meetings as a team or larger kind of town halls, really having it as an agenda item that people talk about, that people celebrate. Some of my teams have had great success in that. And, there's been, recognition and reward for those kind of activities, which then starts to, drive more change within the organization.
So that makes complete sense. But then how do you avoid people from falling back into the old habits? Because, you can put it in front of people's faces, but then over time, it's easy to go backwards.
Yeah, absolutely true. And I think it's very easy when individuals are not seeing the kind of the fruits of their labors, right? If they don't understand what impact their projects or their involvement is having in driving change or maybe improving results, then it's very easy to slip back. So the more that businesses and groups can communicate successes, I think it's easier to stop them falling back into the old habits. And I think it's listening to all viewpoints within an organization as well. People that have been with organizations a long time have a very different viewpoint than people who, have only been with the company a short period of time. I think it's making both of those groups feel like their thoughts and input is valued. People that have been with the organization, a longer time may think, oh, we tried this, it didn't work. And so a lot of it is encouraging those individuals to, be more open to trying again, but also listening to them and say, hey, why didn't this work previously? And trying to learn from those mistakes as well.
Yeah, it's almost like the people who've been there a long time have that kind of jaded view, and the people who are new may have a fresh, exciting view. And it's bringing those two together, finding that in between to where can we meet in the middle, to asking the right questions of the jaded view and then asking the right questions of the person who's never seen it before.
Absolutely, because I think you don't want to just dismiss the views of people that have been there a long time. There's a lot to learn from them, especially from not making the same mistakes. But it is a matter of meeting in the middle with it, and making sure that team leaders are all focused on it. I think it's very easy for an individual team to fall back in old ways if the leadership of that team it doesn't feel like the project's worthwhile.
So what stage of the journey would you find most businesses today? Would you say most businesses are today in the business transformation journey?
I think it depends on a couple of factors for each individual company. I think it's that where they are in the life cycle of the company, the industry, the leadership. But I do think COVID-19 is definitely making more companies focus on transformation in order to, either to survive or continue to thrive. It's really, pushing the point and making people focus on transformation maybe earlier than they would have done. I will say from experience, I don't think there should, if leaders are debating about whether to, start down a route of business transformation, don't delay. It really is something, if you're thinking about it, it's probably something you should be starting to do today. And I think, once you start to embed a business transformation culture into a company, then it's something that, becomes more natural. It's not something, that you tend to focus on necessarily specifically. It just starts to come naturally and starts to be, always part of what everyone does.
So as we wrap up our conversation, is there anything that you would want our listeners to kind of take away as they're thinking about their own business's transformation, thinking of the future of finance and accounting, and what does that look like for them as they look today?
Yeah, from a finance and accounting perspective, I think there's definitely a lot that can be done around taking out the noise from like the month-end close process. Really focused on things that are, very straightforward every month, and looking at ways to, reduce the time spent in those areas, whether it's making the process simpler for someone to do or, implementing some RPA to make it an automated process. But when you start getting finance and accounting teams thinking that way, what can they take off their plates that's very straightforward? What can they that then gives them time to do some of the more interesting aspects of accounting and finance, get involved in more one-off projects. And that really then helps motivate and develop staff. So it's kind of, has two great points there in terms of, reducing the time spent for month-end close, as well as, that development and encouragement for staff as you try and retain them in what is a very difficult employment world at the moment as people try and retain staff or attract staff.
This has been Count Me In, IMA's podcast, providing you with the latest perspectives of thought leaders from the accounting and finance profession. If you like what you heard and you'd like to be counted in for more relevant accounting and finance education, visit IMA's website at www.imanet.org.